Hello and welcome to another video, and first of all I want to thank you for all the new subscribers. I think I've got over 200 new subscribers since the last video, so I'm on about 2,836 or something like that at the moment, but it's blown me away. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Obviously the more subscribers I get, the more encouragement I get to carry on making these videos. Also your comments encourage me to carry on making these videos. This one's a little bit late. I've had the flu, and in fact I come down with the flu just as I was filming that last video. My voice was going, and this one really kicks me pretty bad, and yeah, I spent a few days in bed with it. My voice is going and it keeps coming and going, but we're going to try this one today. I weren't going to make it, but I thought we'll try and get another one out. This is a bit of a strange one. It's a bit further away than what I normally do, but you know I'm trying to expand as much as I can. This is sort of Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire. This is Markyate, and this is around about sort of the Wicked Lady ghost, but it's a bit more than that because we've got highwayman, we've got a ghost road, and so we've got a lot to cover in this video. I'm not going to try and make it a mega long one, but we'll see how we get on with it. So again, I don't know what to call this one, the Wicked Lady, which is what it's become known as. But sort of, yeah, this is Markyate and sort of like Harpenden as well. So let's get into it. So Markyate, I'm probably saying this name quite wrong, but it is spelled Markyate. And I think the best way to describe this is that this story today is a combination of folklore, myths, legends, and elements of facts of the British history. So it's quite a combination. So what we have in Markyate, we have an old manor house that was first built back in the 1400s, and then it burnt down, and then it was rebuilt in the 16th century. And you had a family move in there, and they were the Fanshaws. The Fanshaws were involved in the Civil War, and it was all this combination of you're not allowed to have Catholics and Protestants and all this sort of stuff. Eventually, after some turmoil, the house got passed over to the Ferrers family. Now, what happened, the Fanshaws were there in the 1600s, and the Fanshaw son, Thomas, was marrying Katherine Ferrers. Now, they were 14, 16 years old, I believe, so it was quite a young marriage, but I think the legal age back then was like 12. They seem to live quite happily. Now, this is the Markyates manor, or the Markyate cell. It has two different names. People know it's two different things. This is the building that is meant to be haunted. But not just that, the landscape around it. Katherine Ferrers went on to be sort of a folklore. You may have heard of the Wicked Lady Highwayman or Highwaywoman. We didn't know that it was meant to be a lady till after her death and sometime in history. What we have around about the time, about the 1650s, is a lot of highway activity going on, a lot of robberies going along the roads around the area and further afield. Now this is where we come up to Harpenden. Now the Wicked Lady was made into a film which people you may know of, and it is about the Lady Highwayman or Highwaywoman. I'm going to say Highwayman because it sounds wrong, but the bottom line, the story of Katherine is that she was disgruntled with Thomas. Thomas spent all the money and brought the household of Markyate cell into sort of like ruins, and there's no money there. She had to go out and get more money to pay off the debts. The way she done this was by robbing people. Now she met up with a gentleman called Ralph Chaplin. Now he was what you call a bit of a professional robber, and he taught her the arts of being a highwayman. And they used to go out on their horses of an evening and rob carriages as they used to come down. Now it seemed that they didn't only just rob on their own doorstep, they used to travel quite further afield to St Albans and to Harpenden. And one evening Katherine wasn't able to get away, so she had to stay at the house, and Ralph Chapman went out and done some highwaying. During that time, rewards had been offered to capture these two highway people. It had been quite a well-reported events that were going on. And Ralph Chapman got shot and he died. Now Katherine was told this by the maid, and she had to hold it all back. Her grief, she hid back. She didn't want them to know that she was his partner, and she was the other highwayman, because they always thought it was just two men that were doing this, not a male and female. After a few weeks, Katherine needed the money, so she went out again. Now, the way they used to do this was a tunnel from Markyates' cell, or Markyates manor, a tunnel that led out down the road, so she could come and go out of the manor without being seen. What happened on that night that she went out and she got shot. Now, the rumour is that she dragged herself back through the tunnel and the maid found her dead in the room. But the maid first of all thought that she had found the dead highwayman, obviously uncovered it and found out that it was Katherine. She hid that for some time. Now there's reports that they smuggled her body away and buried it, but we do not know where she was buried. All this is a bit of a myth and a legend around it. No one's know if it's 100% true. But I felt it was important for you to know the history of the area to understand some of these reports that are going on what it could be, because horses and highwaymen are one of the main things that are seen around here, and it is split over two different locations. So one of the first reports we had was from 1940, and that was at Dyke Lane. Now Dyke Lane is just outside of where the manor is. And what we have is a gentleman driving down that road of a night time when he see a horse run in front of him. He slammed on the brakes of the car and he thought he was going to hit the horse, and he sort of almost passed through the horse, but he didn't know if he just almost missed it. He got out and there was no sight of the horse around or anything. He put it down to a close call. His wife, however, turned around and said that she didn't believe the horse was real because she could see through the horse as it was crossing the road. Then she said, we didn't miss it, we went through it. The husband wasn't really sure what to think of this, but when he actually passed the report on, he found out that other people had either seen a horse in the past come down Dyke's Lane that disappears, or they've been walking along there and they hear the sound of horse hooves, but they turn around and they can never see a horse near it, even though the sound of it is coming down the lane, but on sort of like a gravel or a dirt track, which would put it back into the time of Katherine Ferrers. And there's going to be so many cuts in this video. I keep cutting it and coughing and blowing my nose and we can get through this video. We'll be fine. So the other area that we have on there, and now this is, when I say recent, I always think of the 80s as recent, but it's not. It's because I'm old. But this was Kennington Common. In Kennington Common, this is a road that goes down that area. We've had reports over the years of sightings of horses that vanish. We have sounds of hoofs going down there. We have a post office worker that was standing there and watched a horse with a lady on it come running up the road and disappeared into thin air. He reported this back, and then he found out that there had been another report, and this was by a night watchman. During a period of time, Markyates was having a bypass put through it. A watchman in his work hut, looking out over the roadworks that were taking place, see a horse with a lady on it, or a highwayman on it, run up the hill, come towards the workers' hut, and then pass through the barriers, well, obviously a solid barrier, and kept going up towards the hill to where the manor house was. So we have again more reports of these horses that are going around the area. Now we have another road called Millfields Lane. Not really linked, I guess it is linked because there's a horse that is seen running across there, but again, now this was in 2005. A gentleman was driving his car and he meets rather fast down that lane. A horse come out across the field. He believed that he was about to hit the horse. He slammed the brakes on, put the car into the bank and dented quite badly the side of his car. Now he put into his report that he swerved to miss a horse that come over the field. When the insurance company done an examination, they found out that there's no horses that could possibly have come down over that road, and horses weren't a thing around that side. This is the reason why, if I hadn't had the flu, I was going to drive and have a look at all this, because I wanted to check this out. Is there any way that horses could come down there? Look on Google Earth. It's a field, so it is possible. I don't know. I don't know if there's horses around now. What I did find was quite interesting, that in 1935 we have a report of a ghost, or ghosts, of a Civil War army that are seen walking across by Millfields Lane. I can't find any other reports. It was in the Paranormal database, It's just my issue with Paranormal that basically so many disappeared from it is quite bizarre. I do have some notes about this. Now, this was seen by a school teacher in the area, and it wasn't only her who saw it. She was out with a group of friends, and lucky enough, she was a history teacher. So when she noticed these people walking around, she thought it was a Civil War reenactment until they vanished. Now, again, what we hear a lot is that they're not walking on solid ground, but they're sort of walking ankle deep, which sort of backs up that time period where, you know, get these we get these sights of the Roman soldiers where they're literally walking through the ground at chest height because the ground's that deep. Ankle depth, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how this works with ghosts, about, you know, do they walk on the right level or whatever levels they are? Put your comments below. How do ghosts walk around? Does the size of the ground and movement of the ground change where they are? I know in Bellis we have a ghost there that is seen in mid-air where the manor house was, and she's still seen up where the level floor was. So whoever sees her walking around in the middle of the space, just middle of nowhere. Then in 2006, again, we have reports of people dressed up in old-fashioned army outfits. Now, when these were seen by two young boys, they described them as Romans, but not probably knowing the difference between Romans and Civil War times. They may have got that wrong. It does fall in, Civil War falls in a big part of the history of Markyates. The manor is basically there because of the Civil War, and it's how the Ferrers family come to take ownership of it. You know, at one time those royalists, they got kicked out, and then, you know, over the rules of the country changing, they were allowed back in, and all the valuable land was given back to the royalists. So it was quite important that the Civil War had an impact on that area anyway. So is there an element of why these people were seen in that area? Again, probably need to be a proper local historian to know that. I don't know the area that well, but what we do know is that the ghost of Katherine is still meant to be seen around the manor itself. Now, people in the manor, that is private, and I think it was up for sale a while ago. People in the manor say they hear her crying and sounds around the room of a lady that sounds in pain, but they can never actually find out where she is. What we have as well, in 1990, a painter and decorator was actually working in that building, and every time he used to come in the morning, his tools and what had been messed around with, and he started getting a bit annoyed about it, and he mentioned to the people there, you know, can you stop people coming in and messing around with our stuff? And they said, no one does. He goes, you leave, we lock the door and nothing is touched. He goes, but my ladders keep getting moved around and everything. And they said, well, you know, this is meant to be haunted, this place, and where you are is meant to be where the tunnel entrance is. It goes down across the town. Now, I've seen a video on YouTube of a young girl who interviews the local historian there, and he says that the tunnel come out into his garden. When the bypass was put in, it broke the tunnel up, so his end is blocked, but from the manor house it's not meant to be blocked, it's still accessible. Is this ghost of Katherine still trying to come through that tunnel, trying to get, you know, to save her life by trying to get back home? Is that who is messing around with the painter and decorator? Because then what happened the next day, he's actually up on the ladder and he feels like somebody's tugging at him. He turns around, there's no one there. He carries on with his roller, he's rolling the walls, and again he feels this big tug, and he actually loses his balance. He falls back, and as he's falling, he sees a lady in a very posh, old-fashioned dress just standing there and sort of like laughing at him falling down. Remember that Katherine is known as the Wicked Lady, and again, you know, look up on more the history of that if you want to dig deep into her. There's a film about it that apparently is pretty good. I've not seen it, but she wasn't called the Wicked Lady for nothing. Did she get kicks from doing this sort of stuff? Did she like hurting people around her? From reading the biography stuff that is available online, nothing really points to her being this wicked lady, apart from being this highwayman that, you know, Dick Turpin, he's seen as a hero, isn't he? So I don't know. The other thing we have, during the autumn time, we're meant to be able to see a lady standing at the top of the manor house looking over the land, and this is when nobody's meant to be in the house, and some say they see a light travelling from room to room as if it's someone carrying a lantern going through those rooms. Now this has been seen by apparently the local historian, but also by people around that village. It's hard to get close to this location. It is set really quite far back. I've reached out and I had no sort of communications. It's hard to find out who to really contact, and I've written off to local estate agents to try and find out more information about it, but I had the flu and things didn't happen, and I thought I'm just going to record this one and maybe I'll go back to it later on, because we're going to move over now to the Wicked Lady pub. Now surprisingly, the Wicked Lady pub isn't near this place. This is over in Harpington, which is about 30 miles, 40 miles from this. I may be wrong, maybe about 15 miles. But it's not directly where you'd think this was. But this is apparently where the highwaymen were coming down to do their deeds. And this is why the pub was called the Wicked Lady, because a lot of the stuff that she did around there, a lot of her robberies happened around this area, and particularly on No Man's Common. And this is where we get our next story. So in 1970, the landlord of the Wicked Lady, Doug Payne, was walking around on No Man's Common, taking his dog for a walk, where he heard the sound of hooves approaching, and they're getting faster and faster and faster, and he thought they'd come directly at him. He stood back and he said the sound of the hooves come past him, but there was no body or no horse around, but he felt the rush of the wind go past him as this horse, or ghost of this horse, went past. And at the same time he heard a laughter of a lady and a giggle as if somebody was on the back of the horse. This has been repeated quite a few times on No Man's Common, and for No Man's Common it is common to hear the sound of hooves, the sound of hooves running across that ground, but yet seeing no horse around. Now Katherine Ferrers lived between 1634 and 1660, so she was quite young when she passed away. One of the reports we have is that a young lad is walking across the common when he's approached by a gentleman in full sort of riding gear, old-fashioned riding gear, who he thinks is a cosplayer, because we are now looking quite at modern times. We're only looking about a few years ago now. He thinks he's a cosplayer. He tries to engage with a conversation with this man, asking him where does he get his stuff from, and where's the hat from. He looks up and there's no face under the hat of this old-fashioned riding gear. I'd like to know more about the riding gear. I've reached out to a few people that live around the area and I've not had much feedback. I tried to make contact with the family of the boy and I've not had no feedback from them. If I do, I'll update you in another video. But I'd like to know more details about the clothing, because he just said like old-fashioned riding. Does he mean like a Dick Turpin highwayman outfit? But keep in mind that is our, I guess, the Hollywood design of Dick Turpin and highwayman. Quite often they would wear pretty standard clothes but just hide their faces with a mask or a cloth. So again, we can interpret what a highwayman looks like quite differently. Well, I just realised earlier I might have said that Dykes Lane was near the manor. Dykes Lane is actually near the pub. Getting confused. But near the pub as well is Ferris Lane, and actually the Wicked Lady is on Ferris Lane near the pub. This is also where reports of a horse is seen riding down there, but also reports of the cart. Now carts weren't a part of the highwaymen. They didn't use carts, but they used to go up to people that were riding horse and carts to rob them. And what we have here is a cart going down the road, and then he's seen to swerve off and tip onto its side. And I hear a lot of screaming and shouting, but they can never see anything after that. No, these visions come and they just vanish. We have a milkman that's actually reported back in the 1930s of coming down Ferris Lane when he said it was a really foggy morning. He heard these hoofs come past him very, very quickly and the sound of wheels of a cart. The cart swerves in front of him and tips and flips. He stops, he walks up, and there's actually nobody there. There's no cart, there's no horse, there's nothing there at all. But you can hear the sobbing coming from the side of the lane to the side. So he actually crosses over the bit of track that he was on to see if the cart had gone into the field. He walks into the field, and again you can hear the sobbing and the crying. He can't find anybody around there. So that is when he put it down to a strange event and that it may have been a ghost. So he filed his report, he spoke to local reporters there, and again it's just put down to the myth. And this is where a lot of this brought together the story of the Wicked Lady, and he made it quite a famous sort of like ghost story of the area. So I think they do thrive on it. They like this Wicked Lady ghost and the Highwayman ghost, and it fits in quite well. Yeah, it's not something, apart from the film, it's not something I really come across much. Markyates is a place that I didn't really hear of until a few years ago when I was researching ghosts, and I heard about these, but there's not much about, there's not much information. The books don't really appear on it, so I do find it quite interesting. Anyway, I apologise for the scrappiness of this video. I'll be back to shape and back in form, and I hope to do a much better video for you sooner and get back out filming. I'm getting better day by day. I've still got the sweats and all that at the moment. I hope you haven't suffered this flu that's going around at the moment, or whatever else is going around. Yeah, there's a few things I want to cover as well, sort of off-topic stuff that would be nice to get your views on. But anyway, thank you for your support. If you like it, put a subscription on it. If you don't, please give it a thumbs down, because like this isn't my normal standard of video. I hope to do better soon. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.